expert beekeepers who gave me kind of like a 10-minute lesson on how to handle the bees, which was amazing. And basically, bees aren't really interested in stinging you. They're interested in doing their work. And they were like, yeah, there's some hassler bees. Like, they told me, like people 10 out of this entire hive will want to bug you. And they just like hit your head and you just ignore them if they do that. And I did, and it was really magical. And it makes me so happy because it's really, to me, there's such like an incredible visual metaphor of the, these very small, seemingly insignificant creatures going about their work, not realizing that they're kind of responsible for the entire ecosystem surviving, creating something incredibly sweet, but also able to cause a lot of pain. And it's just like kind of gorgeous visual metaphor for life and like her being unafraid, and it was just without stating it too heavily, and it was just and obviously like the visual reference that referring back to astronaut, obviously with the suit, kind of gives you this echo of where she used to be, and the no fear of being stung, which is life,
It is, but I have to ask you, like, did he or any of the producers come up and say, hey, if you don't want to take it off, we'll do like a CG shot or something? Or was it just, hey, we're doing this?
Yeah, I think there was the opportunity to be like, this is really scary to me or whatever, but it was really cool, and it felt very safe. Although they did tell us like that the bees, I guess, are attracted to CO2, like that's what they're sensing. So if they are seeming to like swarm or something, you're supposed to hold your breath, and then you go and breathe out by your ankles so that they're attracted to down there. So you're supposed to be like, I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that image of me having to like, I can't imagine myself being that cool in that situation. But the bees were just nice. They were not aggressive.
Well, outside of the opportunity to do that amazing scene with the bees, what about the script made you want to sort of come onto this project in the first place?
Well, I think it's so rare to get to see a woman have an existential crisis on screen, and also be someone that is multifaceted in their personality. You're not always sure what you feel about her. Like sometimes you're with her, sometimes you're like judging her, sometimes you're just fully thinking she's doing bad things. But you can relate to her, and I think having all of those different aspects was very unusual.
So one of the interesting things about this project was Reese Witherspoon was originally supposed to star in it, and she had developed it with her production company, and then she had a conflict, couldn't do it, so it came to you. When you came on board, did Noah want to make any changes? Did you have anything that you guys sort of like inherently changed just in general because you guys wanted to go in a different direction at all?
I don't know. He would be better to ask about what was specifically changed because of it not being Reese and it being me. I feel like I know the things we talked about. Well, first of all, I was very lucky that Reese had developed it because she's got such an incredible knack for character and story that I felt like by the time I got there, it was already really interesting on the page, and I had understood the work that she had done and the research she had done that kind of got us to that point. Noah and I, a lot of our conversations centered on how not to make this like fatal attraction or something, how not to make it like a trope of a scorned crazy woman,
And one of the things that's inherent to that is the part of the storyline that focuses on the fact that just her obsession with wanting to get back into space, because she's never sort of felt anything like that before. Did you talk to any astronauts at all? Did you get any feedback from what they thought when they were up there?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet some astronauts when I went on my tour of NASA. There were some astronauts who were there who were very helpful, and also just watching documentaries and YouTube, there's a lot of material of astronauts talking about their experiences, and it ranges from real kind of transcendent experiences of seeing the earth as one for the first time, where they're like, I understood how we're all one unit and how much like it felt like this humanity as one coherent piece, to other people saying that they could erase the entire earth by putting their thumb up, and what that realization is when you see how large the galaxy is and how small we are. So you can imagine definitely how jarring it would be to come back and have to pick up your dog's poop or whatever your daily tasks are.
And you talked about going on a tour of NASA. Were they cool with the movie? Like, did they have any, I mean, what was that sort of relationship like?
I don't know, because I actually went on a public tour. I just signed up like any other US citizen, or I think also foreign citizen. I think any tourists are welcome there. And yeah, I just paid for a tour because I didn't know, this obviously isn't like the shining moment of their history, so I didn't know how excited they'd be about, but they were really, really friendly and, helpful.
And we're alluding to the fact that this is very, very loosely inspired by a real life event. I'm curious, how much did you want to make your Lucy different than the real woman this was based on? How, in your own mind, while just every day going to set, was that stuff you were thinking about?
Well, completely wanting to make her different than the story that inspired this, but that it's not based on, because Noah didn't use any of her biographical information, obviously her name, her appearance, we didn't try and use any of that. Really the kind of jumping off point was just seeing, wow, what is it about the experience in space that would make it really hard to readjust to life on Earth, and then taking that as sort of this jumping off point.
Did you and Noah give Lucy a backstory yourself that wasn't in the script? Were there things that you guys talked about her?
Yeah, it's alluded to, you see this kind of brother that is kind of like a mess up, and that she's kind of always responsible for cleaning up after him, and that she's kind of this figure in the family that the family's kind of, everyone's a mess, and she's the one who is making it, and she's the one who's succeeding, and she's the one who's defying the odds of her environment, all the time. And so like she said, she's a winner.
She is a winner. I have to ask you, you talked about the fact that there was no real special effects in the bee scene. The water scene with the water coming into the helmet, was that real?
That was real. Although it was rigged in a way that I could get out easily. We did it upside down actually, because the water had to come in this way. So it was like a helmet, and then my head was, I don't know, does this spoil the experience for you guys? No? Okay. So it was like a helmet like this, and then I was upside down inside it, and then they filled it up with water slowly, and it was obviously a close-up, so only my head was in, and then it was rigged so that if I got uncomfortable, I could just get out of it. So, but so I just was trying to be very calm, and it would just fill up, and then it would go over my eyes, and then it went over my nose, and then basically I had to wait as long as I could, and then just got out. But yeah, it was not pleasant. I was I need to read the between the lines more carefully when I'm checking my scripts out.
Did you actually get to go into the water though in the suit in some of the other scenes, or was that?
No, that was dry for wet.
Okay.
That was VFX.
And then you did, the sad thing is you did not get to go in the G-Force.
Like the vomit comment.
Yeah, the vomit, yeah, exactly.
No, I didn't, but I don't know, maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Bigger budget. Maybe make a Netflix-based movie.
One of the great things though about this film is it has an amazing cast besides yourself, including Dan Stevens and John Hamm, and I'm going to pronounce her name wrong.
Ellen Burstyn.
Ellen Burstyn.
The greatest of all time.
Can you talk about working with her?
she's like a dream. I mean, first of all, she's just the greatest actress. And like from Alice, doesn't live here anymore, to The Exorcist, Requiem for a Dream. I mean, she's just like been one of my idols forever. And then she was just so on it. I mean, her first 3 days were night shoots, and she started work at like 2 a.m. And she was just like perfect with her lines and her cues, and like I was messing up, I was tired, and like just like, and I asked her, I was like, what do you do that, how are you so sharp? Like, it's crazy, like how are you so capable at this hour? And she was like, I memorize a poem a day. I was like, okay. So I left and I was like, I'm gonna do that too. That's like definitely didn't happen, but is on my like aspirational, the person I'd like to be. Yeah. But she's just a wonderful, wonderful human. Also just like super kind and patient and interesting, smart.
And you hadn't worked with John Hamm before.
No,
What was
but
that like?
we've known each other for a while, which was really nice. Like, you know, not well, but social. We live in the same neighborhood, so we always like bump into each other at lunch or whatever. And so it was really, it felt very like comfortable immediately. Also, he's just puts you at ease. He's like very funny and very nice and very professional, and also like post Me Too, I feel like everyone's so respectful now. Like maybe he was like that before, but like you do a love scene and they're like, is it okay if I put my hand on your arm? And I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. And it's very, very nice. Like the change is a great thing.
Yeah.
And maybe he was always like that, but definitely like very comfortable and kind and professional.
And in case the audience is unaware, Noah Hawley, who is the director of this film, created the television series Fargo, and also created a TV series called Legion, which you've never seen, you should check out. It's pretty brilliant. What about working with him did you enjoy the most? What did you think he brought to the process?
He does have such an amazing mind. Like, when I heard that they were doing Fargo as a TV show, I was like, what dumb person is gonna do that? Because that movie is like so perfect. And I was like, who's gonna be able to do the Coen brothers like on a TV show? And then he does it. You watch it and you're like, oh, this totally works and is really interesting and good in its own way and not like imitative. It's you know, in the vein of like keeps the style, but is really innovative too. And he was just so smart and so thoughtful, and really had an interesting vision for the movie. And it was really fun to get to work with him.
And that just gives you, we talked a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that I brought up, which still sort of sticks with me, is over the past couple of years, you've been able to find these roles that are just so transformative, whether it's Jackie or Vox Lux or doing this. Is that something that's just key to you? Do you just sort of push everything aside, or have you just sort of been in a nice sort of lucky?
Thanks. It's been really hard to like find things that are that kind of exciting and interesting and like different. But I think I've also gotten to a point in my life where I want to be doing something that's like very different from who I am. Like if I'm gonna go play kind of a version of myself, like I'd rather be at home with my family being myself than like, you know, being with strangers acting like a version of myself. So I'm like, oh, work now seems like an opportunity to try something like wild or like completely different, or, you know, really explore what it's like to be in a completely different person's life, as opposed to doing something that's kind of like adjacent to who I am. And so yeah, it's been lucky to find these parts, but also not, like they're really uncommon. They're like,
They're not growing on trees.
Not grown on trees.
Well, listen, Natalie, thank you so much for tonight and for coming and being here.
Thank
Please
you
thank
so
Natalie
much.
and spread the word about the film. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.